Welcome to Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Casey Porter here. So glad you decided to tune in on a Sunday night in the big town as we're getting ready to talk some Dodgers baseball. Have a great show for you tonight. We have a great down the farm that I'm super excited to get to towards the end of this show, but we have a lot of hot stove talk to talk about. First, we want to talk to you. As you can see, I'm by myself, and so we need to get a big crowd, get a big chat. Want to read everybody's chat, get into the great conversation. I want to get into a conversation with you and talk about what you want to talk about the most. So we have a great crowd logging in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Dodger Blue 82, I'm ready too, and we're on the air. Carol S., thank you so much for joining. No Teo and the Dodgers are not budging. It's time to move on. So I'm glad you said that, Carol, because that is exactly what our very first topic is going to be. So let me get through some business first. Again, on today's show, we're going to be talking about what are the alternatives to Teo Hernandez. So really there's three of them. Ha-Seong Kim, we covered him the other night, but we're going to cover him again. You can put him at shortstop whenever he gets healthy. That moves Tommy Edman out to center. That solves one of your problems. You could go get Luis Robert Jr., or you could possibly go get a Suzuki from the Cubs. So what we're going to do on tonight's show is we're going to compare Ha-Seong Kim. We're going to compare Ha-Seong Kim, NolanArenado, and Gavin Lux, all three together in one shot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to compare Seiya Suzuki with Luis Robert Jr. So when we get done with this, hopefully we'll have a pretty analytical view of what maybe the best game plan is for the Dodgers. I'll say this, and I say this all the time, the Dodgers front office, they go through every single margin. They cut and cover every single bit of information underneath every rock. And so when they have all these decisions in front of them, they'll have the analytical team there. They'll have the coaches there. They'll have Andrew Freeman there. They'll have Dave Roberts there. They'll have Mark. They will have every aspect of this. And they'll have the scouts there. They'll have the cross-checkers there. They'll have the professional scouts there that did all the evaluating of these guys. And so they will all get together and they will all put their thoughts together. Everybody will get their say-so. Analytical team will give their spiel. The coaches will give their spiel. The scouts will give their spiel. The cross-checkers will give their spiel. Andrew Freeman, Brandon Gomes, Billy Gasparino. They'll be listening to everybody's pitch, and then they will make a decision that we talk about a lot, that they make right more times than they get wrong. Hey, Craig Osterberg, good evening. Thank you for joining, and welcome to the show, and hello back to yourself. Roberto Munoz, what's our move in the bullpen? We'll get to that here in a minute, too, but we're going to get to the position player side of it first, Roberto, and then when we get done with that, we'll talk about some options in the bullpen. B.L. Boyd, this Teo thing has worn my ass out, tired of it. My fingers are bleeding from Googling Dodgers news every hour. We took you through the Teo deal. The regressions from age 32, 33, 34, they are real. And so I can't blame the Dodgers for where they're at. I can't blame Teo for wanting to get the 3 years to get to his pension. It's just one of those deals that is way more frustrating than I think anybody thought. I will be the first one to admit I thought the two slam dunks of the offseason were that the Dodgers would re-sign Blake Trinan. They did that. But then I just assumed the Teo deal was a slam dunk. I assumed the 3-year deal was a slam dunk. I knew the regression numbers after the age 31 were significant. I honestly didn't realize they were as significant as Austin showed the other night. So we're in a not budging mode right now. Showtime LA. Give me Robert and Kim, if no Teo. I know you don't like Robert's K numbers, Casey, but he plays a fantastic center field, worth it in my opinion. They don't want a rushing, or if they don't, I think you're saying if they don't want a rushing or DePaula. Hey, QXXX, good day, my best friend, Alfonso Lucio. Just checking in. Thank you so much for checking in. Showtime LA, Tanner Scott or Ryan Helsley for the pin. We'll get into those options here in a minute. Alfonso Lucio, thank you so much for joining Showtime LA. I see you. I was watching Padres rap, and I see you talking crap to them. Makes me smile. Okay, so let's get to some of the original options here. And what I want to... Actually, if I can, I think I'm going to have to make an entirely new scene because it's not me. So give me just a second here and let me do this right here. I got to add a display capture. I thought I had this done, but I do not. So give me just 1 second here and I will have this right here. Okay, so let's click that over. So what you're seeing right here on the left, you can see this is Seiya Suzuki from the Chicago Cubs. What you're seeing on the right is Luis Robert Jr. So obviously the cleanest trade for Teo is go get another outfielder, right? So is Tommy Edman an outfielder? That he can be, obviously. But let's look at the other outfielders the Dodgers could go get. Here's the difference, and this is what Showtime is saying. I think the position the Dodgers, here's, to me, consideration number one, okay, is I think the position the Dodgers need the most is center field. I don't prefer Andy Pages to be a center fielder. I want Andy Pages to be in right field. So from that perspective, I would prefer the Dodgers go and get a center fielder. That would be in the Luis Robert Jr. camp. So if you look right here, plate appearances in 2024, 585 for Seiya Suzuki, and you remember that Luis Robert Jr. had the hip flexor early in the season, but still had 425 at-bats. That's roughly about the same amount that Andy Pages had last year. So if you look at Luis Robert Jr. right here, really, really struggled last year. Did not have a good year at all. An 84 WRC plus, a WAR that is not good whatsoever. So Luis Robert Jr., point blank, a walk percentage of 6.6, combined with a strikeout percentage of 33.2. I mean, you're talking about a ratio difference of 27%. That's pitiful. I mean, that's not bad. That is straight up pitiful, okay, as far as that ratio goes. So when you look at his ISO and his strikeout numbers, so his strikeout percentage is more than twice his ISO. Remember we talked about the other night with NolanArenado how there was a 15%. Yeah, he didn't hit a whole lot of home runs for a third baseman, but the strikeout rate and the ISO were both 15%, which is awesome. So that goes into the favor of wanting a NolanArenado. So you look at the strikeout numbers, you look at the walk numbers, you look at the WAR metrics, you look at the WRC plus, 35 RBIs out of 14 home runs, scored 47 runs, did have 23 stolen bases. So I'm getting to all of, and he did play on a terrible team. I'm getting to all of the down parts of Luis Robert Jr. because you cannot ignore them, okay? There is some name brand value that's happening here for people to want Luis Robert Jr. There's no doubt about it because he was terrible last year. He wasn't bad last year. He was terrible. But if you look at Luis Robert Jr., okay, right here, 2020, his first year in the major leagues, about a league average player, right? And then boom, that next year, really good. And then a little bit of a down year, then boom, he's really good again. So then a down year, well, if you go on past history, which I know we talk about these players as being stock, like it doesn't matter what they've done in the past, it matters what they do in the future. But I will say this, one of the best indicators of future success is past history, right? And so if you look at Luis Robert Jr. and what he's done at only 27 years old, he's never had two back-to-back years ever. Ever. He's never had two back-to-back bad years in a row. And keep in mind, he got back like early June, but he did have the hip flexor early, and he was playing on a horrendous team. And if you look at his defense is unquestionably really good. So if I were to not make an argument for Luis Robert Jr., my not argument would be that he was an absolutely terrible offensive player last year. He had a 27% differential between his strikeout and walk ratio. He didn't knock in runs. He didn't hit a whole lot of home runs. He didn't score a lot of runs. He didn't do anything that was very good offensively. So those would be all the reasons why I would say no to Luis Robert Jr., okay? But the reasons why I think like somebody like a Showtime could make a case that, well, I can debunk all that. He's on the worst team ever, okay? And he just had a bad year. And he's never had 2 bad years in a row. And he's only 27. And he is super talented. And he plays center field, which means Andy Pages gets to play right field instead of center, which I prefer. So Seiya Suzuki has, if you look here at his defensive numbers, look right over here. Okay, so games, if you're searching here, search. Somebody find where it says center field here. I can't find it, right? I can't find it because it's not there. So if Seiya Suzuki gets brought over to the Dodgers, squarely put, he is going to be a corner outfielder, which means Andy Pages then becomes a center fielder, of which I am not in favor of that, okay? So Seiya Suzuki here on the left, it was a much better offensive player last year, a 3.6 WAR, had a offensive metric of 25.7, had a WRC plus of 138, which is, he's close to 40% better than league average as an offensive player, right? Okay, and if you look at a strikeout percentage, 27%, that's a little higher than I'd like for somebody who hit 21 home runs. That 21 home runs right there, I'd like for it to be around 22, 23%. But his ISO is 199. So you're looking at, and if you look at his strikeout, his walk to strikeout ratio difference, there's about 17% difference there. So that's not tremendously great. He needs to bring that strikeout rate down to 21, 22%, make it somewhere, raise the walk rate to about 13%, which I think he would do in a Dodgers lineup. So let's project Suzuki in a Dodgers lineup. He gets better pitches to hit. So the strikeout percentage is going to go down, let's say, to 22%. And the Dodgers are going to preach, take your walks. So the walk rate goes up to 13%. So right there, you're within your 10% differential between strikeout and walk, which is simply fantastic for a guy who hit 21, not fantastic, but good enough to accept for a guy that hit 21 home runs, scored 74 runs, and had 73 RBIs, also 16 stolen bases. So there, when you look at Seiya Suzuki and Luis Robert Jr., I think if you look on the surface, you would say the better offensive player right now is Seiya Suzuki. But the problem is he's not a center fielder. So how much does defense matter in that equation versus Luis Robert Jr.? So when it comes down to it, there's no right or wrong answer. I would have to say, in my opinion, if I had the decision to make tomorrow for a couple of different reasons, I would take Luis Robert Jr. Now, here's the problem, okay? Luis Robert Jr., who knows what Seiya Suzuki is gonna require in a return? Who knows what Luis Robert Jr. is gonna? It's all gonna depend on what the return is, right? But as of, let's say everything's equal, which I'm not very good at all the trade stuff, I would prefer Luis Robert Jr. And the reason would be I like the fact that he is a tremendous center fielder. I like the center fielder part of it. And the other part of it I like is that he's never had 2 back-to-back bad years. And he's going to go from the worst team in the league to the best team in the league, and that's going to give him a bump. So I just think from that perspective, I would take Luis Robert Jr. I think I would do it fairly emphatically. I don't think it would even be, I wouldn't hesitate with that. So that's where I would be as far as the comparison between Suzuki and Luis Robert Jr. So Showtime, Tanner Scott Ryan. Yeah, we've talked about the possibilities at the bullpen. So Suzuki also might not be available. Yeah, it might not. Well, I think we'll see. But I mean, I think the Dodgers have so many prospects that if the Cubs trade Suzuki, does MLB replace the Cubs with Team Japan for opening series? Yeah, the Dodgers have plenty of prospects to where if they want Suzuki, I do think they'll show they could go get him. So, hey, Luzardo had a terrible season. Yes, he certainly did. Have to say we might have dodged a bullet with that one. Although when you look at the types of seasons people have, that's kind of one of the arguments you have for Luis Robert Jr. If he's in the Dodgers system, does he have maybe he still has a bad season, but not maybe as bad as it was? Hey, Chuck Huddleston, Roy Estrada, Outman probably not, but he's an option if he gets it together. Outman's another one of those Luis Robert Jr. type. Hey, there's been one really good and one really bad. That's what we've seen. And then a lot of good defense, which is really, I mean, Luis Robert Jr. is the major league version of what you've seen from James Outman at the major league level. Showtime LA, you can also put Edman back at shortstop with Robert Jr. in center. That's what I'm talking about. That's the biggest selling point for me. The two is that Luis Robert Jr. goes to center, Edman goes to short, Mookie goes to second base. Gavin Lux, you probably figure out where he goes. From that perspective, it's in a trade. You can use that trade to go get Ryan Helsley or whoever it may be, right? And now you've gotten your bullpen help and Mookie at second base. You've maximized the value of Gavin Lux, and you've went and got at least an extremely one of the most talented outfielders in the game. That, again, I like odds. I like playing the odds. I think baseball is all a big old game of odds. Again, Luis Robert Jr. has never had 2 bad years in a row. So I would bet on him having at least not a bad year this year. Okay, Hep C. Robert Jr., Seiya, Kim, which therefore makes Mookie a right fielder, are the only ways to replace Teoscar. Yes. So there's your first two, just the straight outfielders in terms of if or slash it looks like when the Dodgers don't get Teo Hernandez. What are your options behind that? Yang Yi, Dodgers could trade for Bichette at shortstop. Mookie goes back to right field. Lux at second. Edman at center field. That definitely is an option. I don't see the Bichette thing happening. I just don't see the Dodgers trading the type of trade chips. If they won't go get a Devin Williams, which solves a lot of problems. It gives prospects runway at other places. It maximizes their value. It gives the Dodgers the high leverage guy they need. I just don't see the Dodgers pulling the trigger on something that big. And then I also don't see the Dodgers doing something to intentionally send Mookie Betts back to right field. Now, I'm not saying it won't happen. If needs be, like last year, Mookie Betts will go back to right field, but I don't think the Dodgers will do anything to intentionally put him back in right field as if to plan for that. So I don't see the Dodgers making a move that when they make the move, they go, hey, when we make this move, we know this is going to send Mookie Betts back to right field. I don't think the Dodgers will make a move with that type of thinking in line there. Hep C, there was a report saying the White Sox asked for Robert Jr. will be more realistic than what it was at this year's trade deadline. I wouldn't, hey, he didn't have a good year last year. So, I mean, right now, I think you have to put him back in the potential category. He has the potential to be, he's shown in the past, which means as of right now, he has the potential to have a great year next year, okay? But the definition of a potential means you haven't done squat yet, right? So in terms of 2025, Luis Robert Jr. hasn't done squat, and what he did in 2024 puts him back, to me, into the risk category because he did not have a good year. Hey, Chilltown All-Star Robert Jr. is worth a gamble. If it's for short term, yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about here. Hey, Michael Sargent, White Sox signed a lot of that core to long-term deals, and it blew up their face. That's why the Dodgers like to keep that flexibility. Chin Liu, Dodgers trade for Seiya Suzuki or sign free agent Anthony Santander. I think it's going to be either Suzuki Robert Jr., or Ha-Seong Kim. Now, if you were to ask me which way, I think it's obvious. I've been very consistent. Between the three, I choose Ha-Seong Kim, put him at shortstop, let Edman move back to center field. That's your Luis Robert Jr. argument, that it moves Mookie to second base. It keeps Andy Pages from being your everyday center fielder. That maximizes, to me, your efficiency on defense, while at the same time also making you the best offensive team you possibly can be. Roy Estrada, hey, thank you so much for joining, Roy. Merry Christmas to all of you out there. I hope you have a great Christmas. Our schedule tomorrow night, by the way, come back tomorrow night. Have your notifications on at 6 o'clock, 5 or 6 o'clock, one of the two times, whatever time I'm available. I am going to be talking to Stephen Nelson right here on our live show, the play-by-play guy. Stephen's going to take you through all sorts of behind-the-scenes types of stuff about the broadcast team, about what it's like being a broadcaster, what it's like being a fourth-generation Japanese broadcaster, being the only Asian-American broadcaster, what it was like getting to call the World Series, what it was like the call for Freddie Freeman, the Grand Slam, what it was like to call the last moments when you win the World Series. Stephen Nelson is joining the show tomorrow night, and I cannot wait to play that interview. So please, 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 when you get that notification tomorrow and it says Dodgers Dawgs is going live and it's going to be Stephen Nelson, come on over and join, and let's talk about it, because I am super proud of this one and super excited. Michael Sargent, totally agree with that. Hep C, I'm a believer in Bichette. Out of all the change of scenery guys, I'd much rather place hope in him than a washed Nolan, that's for sure. I would agree with that. Joseph, I think people forget Mookie had 1 week to learn shortstop. He has the full off season to prepare. He'll be fine. I think Mookie will be fine at short. I don't disagree whatsoever, Joseph. I think he'll be a league average shortstop. I think that's what you can hope for. Maybe a slightly above league average, but I doubt it. I think he's going to be right at a league average shortstop. My point to that, my counter to you on that would be, I think he could play all-star caliber second base. So if you put him at second base, you have an all-star player defensively. If you put him at shortstop, you have a league average player defensively. So if you go get a defensive player that's above league average at shortstop and then put Mookie at second, I think that makes you better defensively. Amr Kadi, thank you so much for joining. Sir, do Dodgers really need a shortstop? Eben, Rojas, and Betts can cover that easily. Yes, I think squarely they need a shortstop. I think Mookie Betts would prefer to play second base. I think Miguel Rojas is a great bench player. I think he's a great utility player. I think he's a great guy to have to come in certain situations. But he's 37 years old, and he cannot in any way, shape, or form be an everyday type of player. I said that all last year. I was very consistent throughout the season. Even when he was having success playing every day for that stretch, like in July or whenever it was, I was very consistent with he can't be your everyday shortstop because he's going to break down. And even if he doesn't get injured, his performance is going to suffer because he's going to wear down being 37 years old. So I don't want to have to rely on Miguel Rojas to have any kind of extensive role. I like him coming off the bench, and I like Tommy Edman in center field better. So from that perspective, I've got a YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. So if you're getting buffering, I don't know what that situation is. I don't even know how to fix it, but I'm going to continue to go on and see let me open the widget and see what's happening here. So it says the stream health is poor, not receiving enough video to maintain smooth cutting in and out. Dang. Okay, well, I don't know how to fix this. Let me do this right here. Give me just a second here, and let me see what my internet numbers look like. See. Seems fine now. Okay, well, I'm just going to continue on because there's not really anything I can do about it anyway. So, okay, let's get into now what I wanted to talk about let's get into this right here. Let me cut this over. So 2 of your options are Seiya Suzuki and Luis Robert Jr. Okay, thank you, Showtime. Thank you, Joseph. And if it keeps cutting out, I apologize. We're in live stream, so I don't tell you. Whoever left, I know we just lost 10 right there as a cutout. Tell them to come back. So what I want to do now is I want to compare NolanArenado, Ha-Seong Kim, and Gavin Lux, right? So I think if you get Ha-Seong Kim, Gavin Lux is the odd man out. If you get NolanArenado, Gavin Lux is the odd man out. If you don't get either one of them, Mookie Betts is short, Gavin Lux is at second base. So if you look at their averages right here, okay, Gavin Lux was pretty good, okay? This is Gavin Lux from 2022 through 2024. So this is, matter of fact, let me make sure feed is out for me. I will leave YouTube and reboot. Okay, I don't know what I'm getting the message. Come back and hit the like button. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so just sent the document comparing Lux. This is 2022 through 2024 for Gavin Lux. There we go. So we should be good now. Excellent. Okay, so walk rate for Gavin Lux higher than NolanArenado. Strikeout rate for Gavin Lux is higher than all 3. Chase rate for Gavin Lux is lower than NolanArenado. Somewhat similar to Ha-Seong Kim. ISOs are fairly similar. I know 157, obviously, NolanArenado has a higher ISO. That's a power index. But those are similar enough to where that's not really a difference maker. Gavin Lux has the best batting average at balls in play, which means that he uses the big part of the field. So guys that use the big part of the field, that's where all your base hits are at, because that's where the most amount of open grass goes. Weighted on base average, nothing really differential there. Okay, expected weighted on base average, all pretty similar. So far, to be honest with you, you look at the WRC pluses, you look at the on base percentages, you look at the batting averages, you look at the weighted on base averages, you look at the ISO, the power indexes. None of that really is any different between any of those 3. Okay, here is that XWO bacon, right? That expected weighted on base average on contact. So right here, that's where Gavin Lux wins. That goes back to his batting average on balls in play. So what's happening to Gavin Lux is he has been very good on the balls that he actually has made contact with. So what that tells you is, as somebody who's just trying to evaluate what's the future of Gavin Lux, right here, if they can get this with the amount of success that Gavin Lux is having with balls in play and his weighted on base average on all the balls that he puts in play, on all his contact plays, if he can get this K percentage down to about what NolanArenado is at 15%, the way that you do that is get this chase percentage down to about 16, 17%. So if Gavin Lux can start identifying the right pitches and swing at the right pitches and lower this chase rate, that's going to lower his K rate to around 15 or 16%. If he does that while continuing the good contact numbers, now you have a guy in Gavin Lux that is quite a bit better offensive player than the 2 that you see on top, right? And of course, those are all ifs, but the thing that's exciting about that is the chase rate and the swinging at the right pitches. Those are, to me, easier adjustments than trying to have a better the contact type numbers are ones that are all out of your control, right? That's what I guess you can raise your exit velos, but none of these 3 guys are going to base their game on exit velos. So when you get to the right part of this, you look over here, the WAR metrics, 5.8 for NolanArenado, 6.8 for Ha-Seong Kim, 4.2 for Gavin Lux. So I think you would have to admit that, hey, Chuck Huddleston, great stuff, Casey. I think you would have to admit that Gavin Lux, of the 3 of these guys, as of right now, tonight, on Sunday, he would probably be the guy that you didn't choose out of these 3 guys. But I can make a case, matter of fact, that I just did, that his variables are more in control, in his own control, than the other 2. And if he controls his own variables, like swinging at the right pitches, lowering the chase rate, which will lower his K rate, then that by itself would actually make Gavin Lux a better offensive player than both Ha-Seong Kim and Nolan Arenado. So then that takes you to the defense. Outs above average. Gavin Lux is, of course, he's a second baseman, but he is the definition of an average major league defender, right? And so the thing about that is that the Dodgers fans have a perception of Gavin Lux of being this terrible defender because you just can't get spring training out of your mind from last year, and rightfully so. I'm not trying to preach about any of that, but as far as Gavin Lux and his defense, it was at least league average, and we look at his offense, it was at least league average last year, 106, a little bit above league average. So Gavin Lux right now is just about an average baseball player, and he's a hell of a lot cheaper than these two. So I'm not saying that it's the right move to choose Gavin Lux over either one of these two. Trust me. All I'm trying to tell you is when you actually break it down and you have these meetings and you have the analytics people come in and they make all their different cases for these people, it's really not, when you look at, say, a Suzuki, you look at Luis Robert Jr., it's not as black and white as it may seem. And then when you look at Gavin Lux, Ha-Seong Kim, Nolan Arenado, it's not as black and white as it may seem, right? And so the Dodgers are so careful and so thorough. They take their time to vet every single situation, every single element of it, all the fit parts of it. So now you have your raw numbers, you have your analytics behind the hoods. Then you have to do what Showtime did and what Hep C did with Luis Robert Jr., and you say, well, a center fielder is a better fit. A shortstop's a better fit than a third baseman. So I would have to say that out of everybody we've talked about tonight, the two worst fits as far as who you could go pick up, fits. Now, I'm not talking about production or player, but just fits to what the Dodgers need, I would have to say would be, say, a Suzuki, because he's a corner outfielder, and then Nolan Arenado, because he's a corner infielder. And the Dodgers, to me, don't need a corner infielder. They need a shortstop. They don't need a corner outfielder. They need a center fielder. Hey, we have a super chat right here. Chuck Huddleston says, great stuff, Casey. Thank you very much. This was what I wanted to talk about in terms of what we're having as far as the hot stove talk right now for the Dodgers. Chuck, you are a rock star. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you. That 1999 super chat will make for a very, very, very Merry Christmas for me. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it so much, Chuck. So thank you so much. And so I'm glad that you like all of the hot stove talk that we're having here. So, hey, Michael Sargent back. Great stuff. Great. Roy Estrada, Casey, how about these trades? Not popular to most Dodgers fans, but doable. Trade with Twins for Correa and Pablo Lopez, then trade with Cardinals for Arenado and Helsley. Trade pieces going back, doable. So here is where, as far as the pieces go, I am not as against. Carlos Correa is a hell of a player. Most Dodgers fans, Roy, will say hell no just because it's Carlos Correa, right? Pablo Lopez, great. Arenado, I'm not big on that because of the fit part of it, but the Helsley piece to it is intriguing because you didn't get Devin Williams. Tanner Scott, 5 years for a reliever, as good as he is difficult. So, and then also you would have to think that for the Dodgers to get Nolan Arenado, that the Cardinals would probably pay a good chunk of Arenado's salary, right? I think that would probably be part of it. And then here's where I am totally in favor of any scenario like that, Roy. I am always in favor of trade because Landon Knack, Ben Kasparius, Nick Frasso, whenever they all get hurt, whenever they all come back from injury, the ones that are, okay? Nick Frasso, Kyle Hurt, Landon Knack, Ben Kasparius, River Ryan, okay? Jackson Ferris, Jared Karros, okay? I know I'm going to leave off 3 or 4 names. There's like 8, 9, 10 pitching prospects that have no path to consistent major league time right now. None. Zero. Okay? Especially if you go get Roki Sasaki, right? And then you re-sign Clayton Kershaw, and then you go get a Ryan Helsley. So, to me, these guys are like 24, 25, and in some of their cases, they're older than that. Okay? So, they're going to start losing value. So, if you do not have a consistent major league path for these guys, I know you need them for depth. I get it. I understand all that. But you don't need all 8 of them, right? So choose the ones you want to use for depth, like guys that you feel. Bobby Miller's one. I didn't even mention Bobby Miller's name, right? Okay. So choose 2 or 3 of them that you want to use for depth, right? And then send the rest of them off for whatever needs you feel like you need. Like you have a bunch of young, good outfielders. Do you feel like you need maybe some relief pitchers at the lower levels? Do you need second baseman? Do you need power hitting first baseman? Whatever you feel like you need to fill in your holes at the lower levels, go do that. And then also go use it, like Roy is saying, I could not agree more, to fill in your major league holes. Use these guys to their maximum, and to use instead of just letting them rot in Oklahoma City in the name of saying, hey, we need pitching depth, go use them to go get the guys that you need, whoever it may be. Whoever that may be, whether it be Luis Robert Jr., whether it be a Seiya Suzuki, whether it be a Ryan Helsley, whether it be a Carlos Correa, whatever it may be, right? Okay? Use these guys to their maximum and go get the guys that are the guys and put them in your system that are major league ready, that are going to move the ball forward to the next World Series. So from that perspective, any trade scenario you give me, I am not going to say to no to any of them, because you guys know I love these prospects. And because of that, I always want them to have the cleanest path to the major leagues. I always hope that it's with the Dodgers, but if not, I would rather these guys be like Jordan Leisure, pitching at the major league level for the worst team in baseball, than playing for AAA Oklahoma City. Trust me, I go to Oklahoma City games. Oklahoma City's a wonderful place. Lisa and Alex and all the people there put on the best show they possibly can. It is totally first class. It's a major league facility, but with 14,000 feet, or actually 11 now, because they tarped off the right field. But it's a major league facility just in a smaller environment. It's awesome. But AAA Oklahoma City is depressing compared to a major league setting. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. Just go back to my Landon Knack interview. That was one of my questions. I asked him, he's like, yeah, man, it's hard coming back to AAA, all that, right? So I always would prefer these guys that I get to cover be on the worst major league team in baseball at the major league level than even being at AAA with the best team. It's a better situation for them. Michael Sargent, thank you so much for the super chat. What a wonderful, wonderful thing that is. Michael, you are a rock star. Thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat. You guys are just absolute, and gals out there are absolutely way too kind. Hey, Cole says, I wish people would stop with the Mookie back to right field. He wants to play infield. Reward your stars. Totally agree with that. Hey, Roy, Cole, I could not agree more. Second base, shortstop. I think he prefers second base, but I think you would prefer shortstop over right field, 100%. Another super chat. What a Merry Christmas this is. Roy Song. Hey, Casey and our Dodger family haven't been able to join the live chat in a while. We have missed you, Roy. We will be here for you whenever you have time and come back. Just know that we have missed you. Casey, what are our chances with signing Buehler and Teo? I would say not good with either one of them. I would have said Teo would have been a slam dunk to start the offseason. I never was on the train the Dodgers were going to get Buehler. It's just too big of a roster crunch, and I think it was always going to be a difficult thing to do. And the Dodgers, again, are looking at it like a stock and not, like past performance type deal. So I don't think the Dodgers are going to get Buehler. I think the Teo thing, it's going to be interesting to see, because I'm telling you that 3 years of the pension thing is huge for Teo. So it would make sense for Teo even to go to a lesser team. Huge financial sense for Teo to guarantee those 3 years. That's huge financial incentive for him. So I can't blame him for doing that. I'm not mad at him. I also can't blame the Dodgers for drawing a line in the sand. It just is what it is. Cole, Casey, I vomited a little in my mouth when you mentioned Correa. Yeah, no, that's a very popular Dodgers sentiment. That's why it's not needed and it won't happen. It's fun and not fun, nauseating, as Cole would say, to talk about, but it does come up every now and then. And so we cover it every now and then. And the only compliment I'll give him is to say he actually is a hell of a player on the field. Hey, Michael Sargent, Casey always makes a strong argument working through the facts and analytics while keeping in mind the human element. That's the Dodger way right there, man. You have analytics, you have coaches, you have the human element, you have the analytical element, and they put all of these elements together to make every single decision. That's why they get the best analytics. That's why they get the best statistics. And that's also why they get the best people. And I don't think one's more important than the other. I think if you have great players that are complete assholes over 6 months, that's tough to do, right? Ask people who play with Manny Machado, okay? So that's why I try to approach this thing the same way the Dodgers do, through the analytical perspective and then also through the human element, and come up with the most well-rounded possibilities and perspectives. So for somebody, Michael Sargent, for you to pick up on that, that is very flattering to me, because I actually work very hard to have that whole perspective like that. So thank you so much for recognizing that and bringing that up. To be honest, I think it's going to be musical chairs for all positions, players in 2025. Probably, I would agree. Hey, Roy Estrada, V-Track, agree with you. Mookie is either going to show out or the Dodgers will come off of Mookie. Hey, V-Track, yeah, the V-Track is one of our wonderful posters in here. Mookie is an elite right fielder. I think he could be an elite second baseman too. Yang Yi, if Dodgers sign Teo, it's mostly likely Mookie at short, Lux at second, Edman at center, Conforto in left. I would agree with that. Hey, Ela Shiva, I will feel a bit sad if the Dodgers don't sign Teo. Agree. I love Teo. Hey, go back. I have receipts. Go back to the very first show we did when the Dodgers signed Teo. Go back to the 2 or 3 shows before that. The one common theme I had with Teo is that the Dodgers fans were going to love him because he's happy-go-lucky. He is the exact type of just enough of a goofball. He has fun. He's fun-loving. He's the exact kind of teddy bear personality that the Dodgers fans were going to fall in love with. That was literally my first argument for Teoscar Hernandez, and it might end up being the last, as Ela Shiva is mentioning here. So I will be very sad too, Ela Shiva, if that does not happen. Roy Estrada says that Santander is a free agent, so it would. I'm in the boat trade because I just think there's prospects that need to be moved. Hey, Hep C, Lux is an average player. I really don't believe an average player who is a platoon player is worthy of catering to. Shifting the roster to accommodate him the way Freeman is doing. I wouldn't say Freeman is doing that. I would say Freeman's playing chess right now and still weighing all the options. I've said it many different times in the last 3 or 4 shows. I'm not sold that the Dodgers saying that Mookie going to shortstop is actually what's going to happen. I think they're doing it as leverage. I think they were doing it to leverage maybe a trade with Devin Williams, as if to say, hey, we'll put Gavin Lux at second. So like what Hep's saying there, hey man, look at the amount of confidence we're showing in Gavin Lux. We're shuffling all these all-stars around. We're shuffling all-star Hall of Famers around to cater to Gavin Lux. That tells you how much we like Gavin Lux, right? And so when other people see that, they see that statement being made by the Dodgers, I think there's a case to be made that raises the value of Gavin Lux. So I think there's a good chance that all of that is a leverage play. Now, will that leverage play ever actually be a factor in a trade scenario? We don't know. It has not been to this point. They didn't do it with Devin Williams, but I do think that that statement is more of a leverage play than it is a, yes, there is a 100% chance, like we're saying, that Mookie Betts is going to be the shortstop. I think they're saying that in December. I'm not sure that, I don't think they're convinced that that's going to happen by the time spring training starts. Hey, Roy Estrada, thank you so much for joining. Dan, see, if the Dodgers sign Santander and not Teo, then I'm going to shake my head. Same money, less on base percentage. Only younger is his advantage. Santander's a really good player. Really good player. But, yeah, I would agree with that. Cole, that's why I don't think they're going to get Santander. I think your options are Seiya Suzuki, Luis Robert Jr., Ha-Seong Kim. Those are your three options. Hey, Alejandro Herrera, Santander is less than Teo, no thanks. Chuck Huddleston, I think the big position player changes are in 2026 with Freeman or Miller. In 2027 it's short. Yeah, that's Noah Miller, not Bobby Miller. Rushing in 2026 is backup catcher, left fielder. Chilltown All-Star Teo signed with the Dodgers in January, I believe, and could be the same this time. That's a great point. Chilltown, bang, right there. And then remember, Mookie Betts and the Freddie Freeman deals were really late too. So, hey, keep that. That's a great point, Chilltown. That's why I always say, just go up and down the chat here. That's why I always say Dodgers Dogs. It's not the biggest, but it is absolutely 100% the best baseball chat out there. I will take that every day, and twice on Sundays I will go with that argument. That is a great observation there, Chilltown. Hey, Cole is talking to other posters there. Hep C, teams are calling Freeman's bluff with the Mookie thing at shortstop. I agree. I totally agree. Hey, keep the faith, patience. That is a great perspective, Chilltown All-Star. So, okay, I've gone over the three options. I have compared Gavin Lux, Ha-Seong Kim, NolanArenado. Then I've also compared Seiya Suzuki and Luis Robert Jr. I'm going to wrap this up before we get to our down on the farm, this part of it, and say I think the two worst fits are Arenado and Suzuki. I think the two best fits are Ha-Seong Kim and Luis Robert Jr. because of the position that they play. And then I'm going to say it again. Luis Robert Jr. is extremely talented, and he's never had two bad years in a row. And then Ha-Seong Kim, I know he's injured, but I'll say this. That allows the Dodgers to keep Gavin Lux and then work Ha-Seong Kim in slowly. And then if Ha-Seong Kim doesn't work, then you just stick with the Mookie at short, Gavin at second. Ha-Seong Kim then has the offseason to become your everyday shortstop in 2026. So there's the right position, there's the right type of player, and then you also have the insurance with a Ha-Seong Kim type situation. So what we're going to do next now is we are going to get to our down on the farm segment. We have been going at it about 50 minutes here, and this is about 20 minutes long. So get you some popcorn, sit down. We're going to hear from Landon Knack. Of course, he's not a prospect anymore, but I put him on there. Landon Knack is going to give a couple of comments about what it was like getting to pitch in the World Series, what it was like getting to face Soto, being in New York and all that. We're also going to hear from a couple of other, we're going to hear from the Rancho pitching coach about Ronaldo Yin and Edgardo Henriquez. Sean Coyne is going to talk about their 104-mile-an-hour fastballs. He's going to talk about their advancements, their future, and all that. Hey, we're going to hear from Eriq Swan. Eriq Swan, who has reached 103, is going to take you through all of his different grips on his pitches. Every single one of them. He's going to show you his grips. And then another guy, you need to know his name. I'm telling you, Carson Hobbs, who has reached 99 miles an hour. We're going to hear from him. So stick around. We are getting ready to go to our Down the Farm segment. It's like, again, it's 20 minutes long. Please stick around. I love prospect coverage. I think you'll enjoy hearing from these guys if you give them a chance. Stick around for the 20 minutes. So with that, let's not waste any more time. Let's take a trip down the farm. You're standing in Yankee Stadium and you're looking at Aaron Judge is at the plate. You look on deck, and it's Juan Soto. So take me through those types of emotions.
Yeah, the World Series, I was weirdly calm once I actually got into the World Series. I mean, obviously, like sitting in the bullpen, kind of watching it happen and seeing the emotional roller coaster we were going through with those games. I mean, it was obviously before you felt a little bit, but once I kind of got out there, it really just kind of felt normal. Blake and a bunch of them had done a very good job of kind of talking to me about the moment and just embracing it and just understanding that, like, you don't have to do anything extra, just be yourself. And just kind of tried to take that to heart. And once I got out there, like, it just felt completely normal. And so it didn't really hit me facing Judge, facing Soto, facing Giancarlo. It didn't really hit me until after I came out of the game, really. And I was like, okay, I just faced the Yankees in the World Series at Yankee Stadium. I mean, it was a cool thing once I came out, but in the moment, like, we were just going out and doing our thing.
Did you ever have that moment where he said something to you and you're like, and you kind of want to argue it, then you looked at him and went, wait a minute, that's Mark Pryor. I ain't arguing with this dude. You ever have that moment?
I mean, the thing that I also love about him is that if you want to argue with him, you can. Like, he's not such a prideful person that, like, he doesn't think that other things can be correct. He is very open to ideas and being able to kind of talk things through. He'll give you his opinion on it, and then, like, we'll have a discussion. And so that's the kind of the great thing about the way he works, as well as Connor McGinnis, the assistant coach. Like, he's like, they are kind of a great team of being able to talk through adjustments and kind of thought processes that you're having, as well as what they think is going to help you.
You know, you have this long grind, whether it be back in high school, JUCO. James Alvin said it's like you're trying to eat an elephant. You have this gigantic goal, and it just seems so far away. And for you, it seemed like that, I'm sure, at times, because you have paid more than your fair share of dues at the minor league level. So you go through all that, and then you're sitting in the bullpen, and you realize in about 5 minutes, I'm going to be a World Series champion. I mean, take me through that emotion. That had to be incredible.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously, that game itself was just so insane.
Oh, my gosh.
We were sitting down there. I mean, the game, they start off hot, getting things going. We're looking down there like, do we have enough coverage for the rest of this game right now? And then that fifth inning happens, and we kind of fight our way back in. And then we're starting to realize we're like, it doesn't matter if we actually have the coverage or not. We're going to find a way to have the coverage. And so, yeah. I mean, heck, I was sitting there at one point as we were trying to figure it out the game, and was almost wondering, like, I had thrown 4 innings the day before, and I was starting to be like, I might have to throw to try to save them again today, because we were just kind of getting to the end of that pin, and then you see Walker come down and kind of want the ball the way he did, and kind of come down there and just take it, and you knew as soon as he got in the game, we're like, all right, this is done. We're winning this easy. And so, once the actual that final pitch was thrown and he struck him out, it was just kind of just a wave of emotions that I still haven't fully been able to wrap my head around. Of just pure crazy. Just kind of like looked around the places we're running in, just trying to take it in, and it was just surreal, man.
So the Fall Stars game, you just got through pitching 2 innings, and that game 2 innings scoreless. That had to be a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was unexpected. I thought everybody was throwing 1 inning, and they told me I needed to go out for a second one, so just tried to make it fun.
What was the fastest velo that you've registered so far, and what are your consistent velo numbers?
In professional baseball, this year I hit 101. In college, I hit 102 and 103. Oh, wow. And then this past year, I think I sat probably 96, 99 every outing.
So you do get drafted 4th round 2023, and since then, really, I mean, until the last half of this last season, you haven't really been able to get your wheels underneath you because you've had injuries. You had the oblique, you had the shoulder injury, you had arm injuries. So take us through those injuries and where you're at right now.
Yeah, so the oblique thing was to start the year. It was really, really off-putting because it was after my first outing. It was a good outing. I was excited to get going, and woke up the next day and was just so stiff I couldn't do anything, and figured out it was the oblique, so that took some time. And once we got that figured out, I think really the only problem I had with the shoulder was I was so excited to come back from the oblique thing that I just rushed into things a little bit too hard, and it was completely on me because they wanted me to take my time, and I kind of I was like, man, I can't miss any more time. Like, I want to throw. And so towards the end of the year, we got all that figured out. It was finally just getting in the routine of throwing every week and being out there and just letting my body adapt to it again. And by the end of the year, I felt great.
Yeah, so the 96 to 98 mile-an-hour fastball coming out. Are you at 6'6"?
6'6", 6'7", with shoes on, at least 6'7".
Yeah, slider, changeup, sweeper, maybe a cutter, right? Is that your mix? Take us through your mix.
Yeah, so I brought a ball.
Oh, nice. Yes.
I have the four seam. Obviously, it's just the fastball, the only fastball I throw.
Nice. So across the horseshoe?
Yeah, and then I have the cutter / slider are kind of the same thing. I have this, which is that one that you see that's like anywhere from 88 to 92, which is the cutter.
Oh, yeah.
Just a gyro slider. And then I have the sweeper, which is the swing and miss, the low 80s pitch.
Oh, nice.
And then the changeup, that one came a long way this year. I'd always been comfortable with it.
So you circle the back of the horseshoe, not you don't go around the horseshoe.
I got this grip from a video of Max Scherzer. Probably the video is probably 6 years old, but I picked it up my last year of college, and it felt comfortable, and it just never changed.
Okay, so let's go right to June 23rd. I know it's a day that you really enjoyed. In fact, it was a week that just was like a whirlwind for you. Awesome week for you. You have the walk-off against Inland Empire, so talk about that.
I mean, that was my few walk-off in my career as a pro. I think maybe 2 in my life. I don't have many walk-off. That was very special. That's my few walk-off as a pro. It was a really like a tough game. I was like 1 for 5. I was like nearly broke my bat, like 2 at bat before, because I was like a clutch IB and I struck out. I was so pissed off. We have like a kind of like a mini fight with that team. We fought that day with that team, like no bench clear. We got some wars. The pitcher that he was throwing, he was talking like really bad to our dugout. So it was a very special moment. I really was wishing that I'd be our manager, Shuwaker. He told me like, I'm not gonna take you out again because I know you will have that I'd be, and I did it. I just went from what I was thinking on my pitch. I shot on my pitch, and I literally closed my eyes. I hit it, and that happens. Yeah.
Awesome. And about 5 days later, you got to catch Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
That had to be like an experience of a lifetime, right?
Yeah, I think that was one of my better weeks of my life, especially that one being so special. And then I got Clayton Kershaw. I've been playing with him like all my life in video games. That was awesome.
You got to the United States there towards the end of the 2022 season. You started playing in the States at the beginning of 2023. So this was your second full year in the United States. So was there a big difference between year 2 and year 1? I mean, are you a lot more adjusted now? Do you feel like you're totally adjusted to the United States?
Yeah, being honest, I think the last year was like my adopted year. This year, especially because it was my first affiliated season, affiliated team. So this year, I think that I could handle it better last year. And this year was for sure 100% better. I knew like places to go, like being in California, being in Rancho is so different than Arizona. So yeah, I think that I can handle really well. Then I went to Great Lakes, it's Michigan, it's 100% completely different than Rancho.
It is.
But I did. I think that I felt good with the people. Fans are different. Town is different. But yeah, I think that being a minor leaguer, you have to learn how to hold there, like all the fans, different teams. But yeah, the United States has been great. I love this country. I'm here right now. I'm in Florida. But yeah, I like this. I don't know how to answer that, but I like being here. I'm from Venezuela, but I like being here. I have family here. I have friends here. It's good. It's good to be here.
So you're a hitter that loves to use the middle of the field, the big part of the field. You gather a lot of hits to the big part of the field, but I know one of the parts of your offensive game you were concentrating on last year was to add power. So how did that go for you?
I'm gonna say that was like, I don't know, it was like the right thing to do because I could see it. Like last year, I hit 8 homers. This year, I hit 3. I started the season like getting power. I hit 3 in my first like 30, 35 at best. Okay, things going well. Like 1 RB to other, I lost the feeling of the power. I said like, I don't understand. I asked to like my hitting coach and up the team. They told me like, that's painful. I mean, keep doing it. Keep doing your routine.
Yo, these were sold out everywhere. Then my eBaylers went off.
For maybe like 20 days, 25 days, have a really big slam, like 0 for 35, something crazy. Trying to grab that feeling, like trying to feel it again, and I couldn't. Just one day, I woke up, I went to the game, okay, my first big game was that with Kershaw. That game that I got Kershaw. That was one of my first big games when I started like hitting, when I got my feeling back. Yeah. Like I woke up, I asked him like you told me, this is baseball. Keep doing everything, keep doing your routine, your drills. Like hard work pay off. That's the thing that he told me. Like keep doing it. It's baseball. Yeah. Same like you're going like 0 for 35, you will go 20 for 35.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's difficult. Difficult when you go to the play and you feel good and you go 0 for 5 with 4 with contacts. It's difficult and you don't know what you think, what I'm doing well, what I'm doing wrong. It's like difficult, so difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the worst part of being a hitter. When you are in the slump, use your mind can take you off the lawn. If your issue of mind going down like this long, you're out. The thing that happened this year, my mind start going down, like start thinking just in slump, and that's I think why I got all that SAP without hits.
Slider's really nice. Looks like a centerpiece to your mix there. And then also it looks like you throw a bigger breaking ball, maybe a curveball. It's hard to always tell what guys list their pitches as, but take us through your mix.
Yeah, so it's just a straight four seam, nothing crazy about it. Just try to ride it to the top of the zone, work at the bottom sometimes. Slider, I throw that pretty much, and I'm comfortable with it in most counts. Like I'll go to it 0-0, 2-0, 3-2. It's a really comfortable pitch for me, and like you said, the centerpiece of kind of my arsenal. Everything kind of works off that mid speed for me, and then I've got the curveball. That it is a curveball. It's I like going. It's like mid to high 90s, mid to high 80s, high 70s.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a good speed differential for all 3 pitches, I think, and I'm happy with how it worked out last year.
So your fastball, I mean, even before you got to the Dodgers, your fastball is one that's always had good ride to it, so you've always rode the top of the zone with it. So I'm sure that was a perfect marriage between how you had always pitched with that pitch and then the way the Dodgers wanted you to do it. But talk about how that pitch, maybe some of the adjustments you've made to it if you've had to since you've entered the organization and how that works for you.
Right. So the fastball, in college, there was no like external cue, no internal cue. It was, I'm going to try to throw this ball as hard as possible every single time I throw it. And it just kind of worked out to where it had a lot of ride, some arm side run a little bit sometimes. But when I got to the Dodgers and kind of started that throwing process again, I had to almost find it again because it had been so long. But as far as the development from college to pro ball, the cue had always been just throw it from the top of the baseball as high as we can go. We're going to try to pull down on that sucker and get it to ride as much as possible. And so it hasn't been much of a change, but a little bit more of an external cue just to keep it simple and to keep it more consistent.
That slider, do you tunnel that slider off the fastball, or have you gotten that far down the rabbit hole with any of that kind of stuff, or are they 2 separate pitches?
Yeah, I mean, they're honestly very, very similar because the fastball grip is here, and then all I do for the changeup or all I do for the slider is tilt it. I just grab the hook. It's just like I just try to throw a big cutter, pretty much.
So do you tilt the grip, or you actually physically tilt your hand?
I tilt the grip. So that if the laces are like this, the fastball's here, slider's there.
And just throw it exactly the same.
Throw it exactly the same, a little bit more pressure on the middle finger.
Huh. Very cool.
Yeah.
So do you like start it in the same spots and let the fastball ride and let the sinker move off that same location? Is that how you use it?
Yeah, fastball sets it, and then slider right off of it. Try to go in that exact same window.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive, man. That's very impressive.
And then if I start counts off with a slider, I'll just boom for a strike, and then fastball off that same line, just above the hands.
Gosh, the simplicity of that, the excellence, and then the simplicity to it just seems like you could just do that over and over and over. Second nature, right?
Well, I mean, I had to. When it came to once I made that jump from low A to high A, hitters got more disciplined.
Yeah.
And so the slider usage had to go up a little bit to where it was not 50-50, but closer to 50-50. And like for me personally, I felt like the go-to pitch was the slider in high A, whereas the go-to pitch in low A was the fastball. And so having to kind of flip my priorities and kind of be forced to use it more made me more comfortable with it by like the end of the season. So that early August to the 1st of September was, kind of where the centerpiece aspect of my slider kind of came to fruition.
I wouldn't have believed that 104 existed until this year. The first guy, most people remember Edgardo Henriquez. The first guy actually to hit it was Ronaldo Yeen, and it was like back in May. I texted, or didn't text you, but I messaged you. I was like, is this like legit, or is this like a gun somewhere in the California League that's a little hot today? He said, no, this is legit.
Yeah. Yeen can do some crazy things with the old number one. He lit it up. I mean, damn near every time he walked out there. But that I think it was like a Wednesday day game against Inland Empire was unbelievable. Every time Yeen goes into the game, he's going to throw hard. But it was 0-2, 2 outs, bottom 9. I think it was like 5-2 or 5-3, so it was still a safe situation. And he just, all of a sudden we looked up and said 104, and we were like, oh my God.
Did you check it after the game just to make sure?
Just to make sure. Had to make sure. Because I knew if I was going to go tell him what he did, because I always, hyped him up, we'd have our little jokes throughout the season. But if I was going to go tell him that he hit 104, I had to make sure I was right. Made sure it was legit. So
yeah, I was like, I can't post this until I know this is 100%. I'm like, I really hope that Coin responds to this with some confirmation, because I can't wait to tell Dodgers fans that Ronaldo Yeen just hit 104, but I can't do it until I get confirmation. So when he sent that message back, I was like, oh yeah, let's go, baby.
Yeah, it was. I wish it was a Friday night game with a giveaway, or if Kirsch was in town and we had the stadium packed. But nonetheless, it was still one of the crazier things I've ever seen.
Besides just the 104, which we all know that he can just throw the ball through a brick wall, right? Yep. Beyond that, what should Dodgers fans be excited about with him?
I think with Yeen, I think the big thing that we had, especially when we got him for that brief stint in 2023, kind of like at the back quarter of the year in Rancho, to like the progress he made going into 2024. I think the biggest thing he kind of like took like a premium level of ownership in was just how he slowly started to bring the blinders in and like get ready for the game. Because I think he realized pretty early that he was going to be pitching in the back end of games, and so did we. So it was like just getting him used to that that process of bringing the blinders in. How do I get myself ready to like go do what I need to do, whether it's close a game out or come in with runners on first and second in the 7th inning and 1 out, and like I got to come in and shut the door. His level of preparation for how young he is, in terms of just pitching experience this year, was like pretty remarkable. Like I was never worried about Yeen being locked in and focused for whatever fiasco situation we threw him into.
Right.
Like I knew he was ready to take the ball. He was going to go throw it through a brick wall and do what he could to like get himself and get the team out of the inning. But I think as the year went on, the biggest thing was just like getting used to like the reliever workload, like the demand of being a high leverage guy, getting used to what it's like being like, hey, you did pitch today, but like we got to be ready it wasn't always back to back, but like you got to be ready for a back to back just in case.
Yeah.
Because that may not happen here in Rancho, but it might in Great Lakes and so far beyond. And like his ability and development that he had in his slider this year, having it be a threat in zone, having it be a wipeout 2-strike pitch. Like we all know he could probably just go 1, 2, 3 with number 1 against most hitters in low A. But it was like, how can we strike the slider? How can we make hitters think that the only thing that not worry about the only thing coming at them is 100? Like,
yeah, right.
Some sort of wrinkle that is effective for us that will not only make the slider better, but also make, the crown jewel, the fastball, play that much more. So there were outings where, he'd come out of the gates, bully ball the first hitter with 3 fastballs, and then just strike a slider right down the middle.
Yeah.
Second batter. And those were the days where Chalky and I would look at each other like, okay, cool, the game's over.
Yeah.
If he's doing that, the game's over. Like
we're going in and out here in about 5 minutes, boys.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time. So, and I think that is where that confidence, that aura as a back end guy, like really kind of thrived this year. And I think for, Dodger farm system fans, Dodger fans in general, like that guy is brewing into something that could be like pretty sweet by the time he reaches the big leagues. Just even the steps he took from 23 to 24.
So talk about Edgardo Henriquez, his stuff. You got him first, so tell us what you did with him, what your first thoughts of him when you saw him after the Tommy John, and how that process went in all of his year.
Yeah, I mean, I know I talked about Yeen's aura, but if you want to talk about somebody having aura when they're on the mound, like it's Edgardo. He's a human specimen. He's an elite human being, just like as a person. So it's like really funny when you get to watch him like flip the switch and go into game mode that you're like, this guy's terrifying, but that deep down it's like, oh no, he's like actually like a really good human being. But the diligence he had in his rehab program, like vaulted him and his ability in 2024. So you saw everything he did in his rehab progression to get back to where he wanted to be and be above where he was before. And then when he got back into games, it was just, like I said earlier, it was a complete warpath. Like if you were in his way, you were getting removed out of the way. Like he had one mission, and it was to go as far as he could go. And watching him prep and get ready for outings in Rancho, to seeing his face when we called him up, to seeing him jump to Tulsa, to OKC, and then ultimately like watching his name come through in my email list that he got selected on the big league roster. Like it was a complete just meteoric rise. But if you watched him on a day-to-day basis, it would make sense because every day he prepared like, I'm going to the big leagues. I'm going to get there. It's just a matter of when. I'm not really going to worry about when that day comes, but that's how I'm going to work. And then he would go prove it out on the mound, and then he did it here, Great Lakes, Tulsa, and so on and so forth.
You want to know something amazing? As awesome as Yeen and Henriquez are, both hit 104 this last year, they did not have a swinging strike percentage as high as Jose Rodriguez. What did you guys do to unlock this guy? I mean, this guy struck out everybody this year.
Yeah, T-Boo, Jose Rodriguez, he did a lot of work with Ian Walsh and Rob Hill in Arizona in 2023 when he was in Arizona. And for the rookie ball season, we got him, I think, for like a week or two at the end of the year in Rancho. So we didn't really see much of him. But over the offseason, he just went crazy, continued to build on the velo jump he had in 2023. And he kind of like worked his way into that like piggyback length relief, sometimes starter, most of the time kind of piggyback guy. But he's an absolute animal when it's like he has a great mind for pitching. He has 3 pitches that he can throw for strikes. He's got the curveball when he needs it. And he just knows, he understands the game at a really high level. So I think in Rancho, it was just his level of understanding for what he needed to do was above the level. And he was able to throw 4 pitches for strikes and just ripped apart low A lineups. But then he also learned how to make sure and refine that when he got to Great Lakes.
Yeah.
He didn't really miss a beat. It was like, okay, the chase sliders down and out of zone, out of hand, I got to start that a little bit more up and a little bit more middle and high A to make sure I'm generating the same swings that I did down in Rancho, but still getting the results that I need to get.